Good morning. We will call the October 3rd, 2023 City Council meeting to order. I'll ask Councilman J.P. Stovall to lead us in our invocation and pledge. If you would, please stand.
Good morning. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day that you've given us. We thank you for all of the citizens that have gathered here today and the interest that they take in our great city. We thank you for our mayor and the other council members. We pray your blessings upon them, upon this day. We pray that you would lead and guide and direct us in our decision-making today. Help us to lead with excellence and efficiency and to continue to build a better Jackson for all of our residents. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 is roll call. Marquise, you see that all council members are present. Thank you. All right, item 4 is approval of the minutes of the September 5th, 2023 City Council meeting and September 8th, 2023 special call City Council meeting. Those minutes were emailed out to you all, so there'll be no additions or corrections. They'll stand approved as read. Item 5 is proclamations, and y'all get comfortable because we got a few. You may wonder why we have so many firefighters up here, because we got the best fire department in the state is one, but, we have a letter of commendation for these outstanding firefighters. On August 28, 2023, at 9:31 p.m., Engines 12, 13, 32, Truck 1, Rescue 1, and Battalion Chief 1 responded to 818 East College Street for a residential fire with one confirmed person trapped. Immediately upon arriving at the scene, Engine 12's crew entered the residence through the front door and began extinguishing the fire. While the suppression efforts were ongoing, a team from Engine 13, Truck 1, entered the residence from the front doors, while the second team from Engine 32, Rescue 2, entered the structure from the rear doors. Within seconds of entering the structure, team members from Engine 13, Truck 1 located an unresponsive and pulseless male victim in a bedroom. Firefighters rapidly removed the man from the burning home and initiated CPR once outside. After several rounds of CPR, the victim regained a heartbeat and began breathing on his own accord. The victim was airlifted to Regional 1 in Memphis, where he remains in critical condition. All personnel present at the residential fire on August 28th are to be commended for their quick, skillful, and coordinated actions. All crews exemplify the highest level of professionalism, skill, and bravery expected of our Jackson firefighters. The actions of everyone involved demonstrated their dedication and commitment to our community. So on behalf of the Jackson Fire Department, the citizens of our community, you are being recognized with this letter of commendation for your quick actions on that day. Your dedication to providing search, rescue, and excellent patient care clearly demonstrates your commitment to carrying on the professional expectations of the Jackson Fire Department. These are our Jackson firefighters, and I'll call them out one at a time, and we'll recognize them with these commendations. Battalion Chief Weemon Graham. Firefighter Jonathan Neal. Firefighter Jacob Pride. Driver Hoyt Huckabee. Captain John Neubauer. Firefighter Robert Melford. Firefighter Hayden Towater. Captain Seth Zelenik. Firefighter Earl Medlin. Firefighter Jesse Williams. Driver Wesley Stuttards. Captain Michael Broward. Firefighter Clayton Lindsay. Driver Paul Billingsley. Captain Stanley Cole. Firefighter John Lee. Driver Avery McElrath. Captain Andy Gay. Give him another round of applause. Now I'll ask the rest of our fire department members that are here today to come up here and join us. Great segue into Fire Prevention Week. All right, so the proclamation reads, whereas the city of Jackson is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting Jackson. Whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are greatest risk from fire. Whereas residents should identify places in their homes where fires can start and eliminate those hazards. Whereas residents should install working smoke alarms in every sleeping room, outside each separate sleeping area, and on every level of the home. Whereas residents should listen for the sound of the smoke alarm, and when it sounds, respond by going outside immediately to the designated meeting place. Whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. Whereas our first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. Whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, Cooking Safety Starts With You, paying attention to fire prevention, works to educate everyone about simple but important actions they can take to keep themselves and those around them safe when cooking. Now, therefore, I, Scott Conger, Mayor of the City of Jackson, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim October 8th through the 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week.
Thank you, Mayor Conger. I just want to, again, reiterate what the mayor said. We do have the best fire department in the state, and we want to thank you all for being present today.
Go to work.
Never know. Next proclamation we have is for National Night Out. Whereas the National Night Out, National Association of Town Watch sponsors a unique community building campaign. Whereas the National Night Out campaign provides an opportunity for neighbors in our city to join over 38 million neighbors across 17,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, and military bases worldwide. Whereas National Night Out is an annual community building campaign that promotes strong police-community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make our neighborhoods safer and more caring places to live and work. Whereas every year, neighbors in our city assist the local law enforcement agency through a joint community building effort with the support of our National Night Out. Whereas it is essential that all neighborhoods in the city of Jackson come together with police and work together to build a safer, more caring community. Now therefore, I, Scott Conger, Mayor of the City of Jackson, Tennessee, do hereby call upon all neighbors of the City of Jackson to join and proclaim October 3rd, 2023 as National Night Out.
Yes. I'd just like to thank the mayor and the chief for allowing us to participate in this program. We've got about approximately 33 parties this year, so this is the largest number of parties we've had since pre-COVID. So I urge any city employees, if you have a party in your district or your neighborhood, please get out and support the citizens, because we need to show the support to them, because this is a volunteer effort, and we just really appreciate everybody participating, and thank you, and have a great day.
Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Representatives from Rapid Safe Hope Center. Whereas there were 504 domestic violence reports to law enforcement in Madison County in 2022. Whereas 18.27% of all crimes against persons reported to law enforcement in Madison County, Tennessee involved some form of domestic or sexual violence. Whereas 8 individuals lost their lives to domestic violence in West Tennessee in 2022. Whereas domestic violence can include verbal, emotional, financial, and physical abuse, as well as confinement, intimidation, isolation, and threats. Whereas abuse of a family member can have a long-term damaging impact on survivors and their children that impacts family, friends, and the community at large. Whereas families are indispensable to a stable society and should be a place of support to instill responsibility and values in the next generation. Whereas the survivors of domestic violence should have help to find the compassion, comfort, and healing they need. And domestic violence abusers should be held fully accountable for their crimes against persons and the community. Whereas RAP offers trauma-informed support and vital resources to empower survivors and their families spanning across 19 counties in West Tennessee, fostering safety and recovery, including Madison County, Tennessee. Whereas the impact on individuals and society is substantial, as a community, we hold both a civic and a moral responsibility to proactively prevent domestic violence, confront its devastating repercussions, and prioritize its elimination from our community. Now, therefore, in recognition of the important work being done by our community to prevent domestic violence, support survivors of domestic violence, and hold perpetrators of such violence accountable for their crimes against the community, I, Scott Conger, Mayor of the City of Jackson, and May J. Massey, Mayor of Madison County, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and urge all citizens to become aware of this destructive force in our society and to become a part of the efforts to build safe, stable, and nurturing relationships and families.
On behalf of RAP and the Safe Hope Center, we know that domestic violence exists. We know that oftentimes victims suffer in silence. But this year, our campaign is wrapped in support, and we want victims to know that we are here, and we're listening, and we're able to help. RAP is located here in Jackson at 512 Roland Avenue at the Safe Hope Center. Our 1-800 number is 1-800-273-8712. On behalf of RAP and Safe Hope Center, Mayor Scott Conger, we thank you so much, and City Council, for recognizing the domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Thank you.
All right, item 6 is invitation for public comment. Remind those that, before we go any further, council, if there be no objections, we're going to strike item 3 on second reading from the agenda today. All right, so invitation for public comment. Remind those signing up for public comment, it can only address items on the agenda for today's council meeting. And so we do have one that wants to address an item on today's council meeting. That is Mr. Ricky Turner. I'll call him up now. He's not here?
He's fine, he's okay.
Oh, he's
He
okay.
don't want
He's on his way.
Okay. Maybe he's changed his mind.
it. Right here.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You have been looking at the liquor zoning laws or rules. I was hoping that you could take time to look at those closer and make sure that you don't make a rush to judgment on your decision. It will change the environment of the liquor industry if you change these zoning laws. It will impact some stores it'll cost them money. Other stores, it'll make them worth more, depending on what they want to do with their moves. Also, the banking industry has been loaning based on these zones, and it will affect how they loan money too, or the monies that they've got out already. So I'm hoping that y'all can take time to look at this and take a careful review before you do.
Sir, are you the owner of a store?
Yes, sir. I manage Ridgecrest Cellars.
All right.
My wife actually owns the store.
All right, thank you.
Do anybody else have any questions?
All right, thank you, Mr. Turner.
All right, thank you.
Thank
All right, move on to first reading. And item 1 is proposed budget amendment, insurance recovery, JPD, in the amount of $13,513.40.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is our, excuse me, this is our standard budget amendment to recognize insurance proceeds and to appropriate the expenditure for those proceeds. So,
Any questions from council? Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
All right, item 2 is proposed budget amendment for insurance recovery for traffic signalization in the amount of $34,803.10.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 3 is proposed budget amendment, JPD reallocation from insurance recovery to capital in the amount of $23,905.78.
I would just point out, this one has a little bit different twist on it from the normal ones that you all approved. In this particular case, what the police department is wanting to do is to take the insurance proceeds that are recognized in the general fund, but move those over to the capital outlay fund, and they're gonna replace, they're gonna purchase a new vehicle with the insurance proceeds. It's for the administrative staff at the police department, so.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
All right, item 4 is proposed budget amendment capital outlay fund reallocation for pickleball courts for the amount of $47,000.
Yes, as the mayor described, this is a reallocation of FY '24 capital funds that were approved in the original budget within the Parks and Recreation Department. They're wanting to move $47,000 from one of their approved lines in the capital budget that they're going to be unable to move that project forward this year, but they'd like to reallocate that to the pickleball courts at the park, so.
All right, any questions from council?
Where are we right now in the process? We have not had bids yet, have we, Zach, or have we?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
so.
there's been no contract. That's how we know the cost.
Okay, so we're gonna vote on that later. Okay, that's the only thing, I'm all for it, but $250,000, I think, for 8 courts just seemed like a lot, but I have done a little research, and it's not as bad as I thought it was. Yeah, I'll tell you.
Motion.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Item 5 is consideration of an ordinance to amend the text of the official zoning ordinance of the city of Jackson, Tennessee, Article 6, regulations applying to specific, to several, or to all districts, Section 27, accessory dwelling units.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
Morning.
You have the materials pertinent to this text amendment, and the Planning Commission did review it and has recommended approval of it to you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from council?
Mr. Chairman, Stan, could you just give us kind of a brief overview of what this actually means and how it will have its implications?
Will do. Accessory dwelling units have always been a part of our zoning ordinance, at least for the last 20 or 30 years at least. And these are some amendments to that section just to allow for some other options that we've kind of experienced over time in trying to make them better. One is the current ADU regulations don't allow for detached mother-in-law suite or detached, unit from the main structure. So in the past, you had to build an addition onto your home, which in some cases that might be feasible, but in other cases it was not feasible, and it limited a family's ability to have a housing unit or for their loved one if they got in a sick situation or were having a terminal illness or that sort of thing. So we've addressed that, and you can now have a detached unit. Also in the past, you could, when you had a detached garage, you could have an accessory dwelling unit above it. But again, that presents problems if you have an elderly parent that they don't want to climb stairs. So we've taken that provision out and made it to where now you can have an accessory dwelling unit, a part of the detached garage, but it can be on the lower floor. Another thing that's changed is because the definition of family has changed over time. There's all kinds of different families. Used to, it was very restrictive in terms of what it would allow. Now it will allow individuals to live there that may not be related by blood or marriage, but the owner of the property has to live in the principal structure or the ADUs. So it's not something that someone not connected to the property could establish one behind another home. It's only available to the owner of the property, and only if they reside in one of the structures. That will give us the ability to address some of the middle housing that we're missing and some of the worker housing and affordability that we're looking for. So we've made that adjustment. Again, in all these cases, these are go through a design review component. We review the architectural aspects to make sure that the unit is compatible with the surrounding homes. We also make sure that the unit is placed properly, because in the regulations it talks about where this can be placed. You wouldn't want an accessory dwelling unit in front of the main home. So it has to be behind the home. It has to meet the normal setbacks that the main structure has to meet, and it must be within the interior of the home. In other words, if you had an L-shaped home, it would be toward the inside of that L, not sitting off to one side where it would be visible. In no cases should you be able to see a front door where it gives the impression that you've got a multi-family situation. So again, it's very protective. It's not something that we feel like will just be, a lot of people will take advantage of, but we know that there will be certain circumstances where it will be a situation that makes sense.
Question? Yeah. After the conversion is made to the garage or whatever, and the owner of the property later sells, what protection is there so that it still remains a family member living in that?
Well, it doesn't require that they be related. So the unit, once established, it would be, if someone else bought the property, as long as they lived in one or the other, it would still be allowable.
So what if someone bought it for rental property?
You could have a rental unit in the back if you wanted to. That provision was not in the current standards, but would be allowed in this standard.
So if you had no family, if the person that owned the property didn't live in either property,
then they couldn't do it.
And so there's some protection there?
There is, because again, it's always related to the property owner. So the property owner has to be in one of the homes. It could be if you had an elderly mother that lived in the big house and she got older and didn't want to live in that, take care of all that, and she wanted to reside in an accessory dwelling unit, she could move to the accessory dwelling unit, still own the property, and someone else could move into the main home. So it just allows some options that we currently don't have, but it reflects the changing nature of our housing market and the changing nature of trying to meet the demands of affordable housing and attainable housing, which is something we want to do, because it doesn't matter how many developments we see, how many commercial developments get approved, how much industry comes here. If we can't provide housing, then we can't build our community. So again, we're trying to find ways to strengthen that and give us those abilities.
All right, any other questions?
I make a motion.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Thank you, Mayor and
Thanks,
Council.
Dan. Next is item 6, proposed ordinance to amend Title 8, Chapter 1.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make the motion to send this back to our code committee. And the reason being that there are liquor store owners that do have concerns. I would just like for them to have the opportunity to be heard.
Second.
Yeah, definitely second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to send this back to the Code Committee. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-1.
Item 7 is proposed ordinance to amend Title 13, Chapter 1.
Council, we had heard your concerns about garbage and trash and debris. Sorry. Let me start all over again. We've heard your concerns about garbage and trash and debris accumulating across the city. And we looked at Title 13, Chapter 1 to see if there was anything that the Code Committee could suggest to change in this chapter that would enable the city to move faster in the cleanup and better in the cleanup. And we've got 4 suggestions for you. The first one is in 13104. And this, it's already illegal in 13104 to have overgrown grass and debris and garbage and all that to accumulate on your property. We looked at Knoxville's ordinance. Knoxville had one more sentence in their ordinance than we did. And that sentence was, if you allow this all to accumulate on your property, then, and if, the second if it becomes a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the people, or it blocks traffic coming on and off of your property, then the city can immediately abate that nuisance or that threat and can clean it up. Then the city will send the bill to the property owner, and the property owner, if they choose, can appeal it to Chancery Court. That's the first change that we're suggesting. The second change comes in 13105, and it's just a matter of notice. The first thing we would like to change about the notice is to add that a posting be done on the offensive property. Okay, so sometimes you have residents who live there who are renting, and sometimes you've got property owners who live there. The second notice will go to the property owner themselves. Third change that we're suggesting is that this one we borrowed from Memphis. This change is that if you get notice one time on your property, just one time, that will serve as notice for the rest of the year. And those are the changes.
The calendar year, right.
Calendar year, yes. Any questions?
Any questions from council? Yep.
Sure.
Councilman Dodd?
The second one you talked about, as far as the first notice,
Yeah.
you say you'll put it on the door or whatever.
Well, if there is a door, sometimes there's a vacant property, so there'll be something posted maybe on a stick, on a sign in the yard if there's no building there.
Then they'll have time to respond, but if not, the second notice goes to the,
No, actually twice, you do it at the same time. You give notice to the property owner by state law. You do that in 3 ways. Go up personally and serve the property owner. You can send it by certified mail or FedEx, or you can post it in the newspaper.
The FedEx was the good change.
Yeah, let me explain that. The problem that we've been having is the certified mail. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get that service back. The Tennessee Supreme Court has ruled that FedEx will suffice instead of certified mail.
This is
Much better.
kind of exciting, that it helps us alleviate some major issues in neighborhoods.
We met with both the Building and Codes Department and the Health and Sanitation Department, and they were, the notice requirement was really inhibiting them from moving quicker and satisfying the citizens of Jackson.
So with that notice, is it 7 days?
It's 5 days.
5 days?
Right.
Okay. Even better.
Right. And about the newspaper notice, that notice can only be done if you've already tried with the certified mail or the FedEx, or you've already tried to serve them in person. That's the notice of last resort, so to speak. So we rarely use that kind of notice.
I have a question. What about out-of-town landlords that just don't do anything with their property, that maybe are out of state? Is it the same 5 days, even if the mail takes that long for 5 days, or does it start once we know confirmation of receipt?
And that's been the problem, right? So you have an out-of-town property owner. You send them a certified mail. You keep checking online every day to see if it's been served. And then finally, a few weeks later, you find out that it hasn't been served, or, then you're stuck again. They can't find the property owner. That's when you do the public notice. But if you can find them, we're finding that there's not a lot of difference in maybe a 2-day FedEx that requires a signature and the certified mail as far as cost to the city, and it gets a lot quicker result from that as well.
That's awesome.
Are you explaining 104 and 105 together?
Well, 104 was just that the city could take immediate action if there was a threat to the health, safety, and welfare, or if it blocked, access to the property.
All right, insofar as this is concerned, and I commend you and the committee for this, because I've been asking for something like this for the longest, and I appreciate that. There are people in my district who are listening because I told them this was going to come up, and they are out there listening now on television, looking at it on television, and I want to be clear on this. Because if I get 15 calls a week, 14 of them are about property. They don't talk about wastewater, they don't talk about budget amendments, they talk about property as being just so messed up, and they want something done about it. So from what I hear you saying, this new amendment is that if some property, and I'll just use the word messed up because that's a term everybody knows about. If the property is messed up and the call comes in from a concerned citizen to the city then sends, or either posts or whatever, notice to the property owner, and they have 5 days after that notice to fix it. Is that right?
That's right. But it's the posting and the notice to the property owner, just in case you've got a different person living there than owns the property.
Gotcha.
So those happen simultaneously.
Okay, and then starting with the 6th day, as early as the 6th day, the city could go out and abate the problem itself.
That's correct. And send the bill to the property owner.
And send the bill to the property owner.
Right. The key is that the property owner is the one that would pay the bill. And if the property owner doesn't pay the bill, then there can be a lien put against the property owner's property. But you can't do that unless proper notice was given to that property owner. And that's been the lag. And that's why this Memphis ordinance that we borrowed from, that allows us to provide notice once a calendar year, that property owner is then on notice. You better keep that property clean for the rest of that calendar year, or we're going to just next time go out and clean it up and send you the bill for it.
Okay, I have another question that just came to mind. Tell me how would this work? I have a constituent named Ms. Mary Winston, who is 90 years old, and people routinely come and dump stuff on her property. She has a lot. They dump it on there. And she has to go to the expense of moving it. She is a victim because of the fact that people put the stuff on her property. How is that situation handled?
Well, if you remember, a couple of months ago, we were here with that littering ordinance. And that's why it was important to bring that one first, to protect people like Ms. Winston. So once she sees that someone is dumping trash on her property, if she can take a picture and, the city can handle that because it's illegal now to dump on other people's property.
As long as we document, we can put the cameras on the property.
Richard, you're supposed to have a camera there.
All right, we have some, but not at that site yet.
Right.
But
Yeah,
the
but as
others-
long as we have it documented that it is illegal dumping, that she's not doing it herself.
All right, we can take care of that. Thank you much.
Will this be reported through like 311, or how will they actually make the report of a property that is?
I'll leave that to them,
That's
Mayor,
through
to
the
answer that.
311, that's through Powell Patrol, that's through our H&S claw truck drivers that are going.
There's
yeah,
multiple
ways
options
to
for
report.
all people.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Question.
Yes, sir.
What would be the thing that would stop this 5-day process? So that,
Sure.
what stops that so that it becomes 6 and 7 and 20 and,
Well, the thing
if there
that's-
is anything?
Okay, two things. First, if the property owner called in that 5-day period and said, I'm struggling with this, I'm trying to find, help, something like that, gave the city some sort of notice that they were dealing with it. If there's no notice from the property owner or the resident that, that anything's going to be done. Certainly, the city could move ahead. But the thing that, I think your question, Councilman, is why has it been taking so long? It's the notice requirement
Okay.
that's been holding up the process. And one other thing, if I can, this is not a change in the code, but one of the things that we noticed in the code that we've shared with Health and Sanitation is that once there is garbage, trash, whatever, that's placed at the curb, that becomes the property of the city of Jackson once that's placed at the curb, and the city can deal without a notice requirement. So that's going to allow them to move ahead a lot quicker on those things that are at the curb as well.
This is almost like a godsend in a way.
I mean, it is a godsend. Ain't like one, it is one. It is one.
We're happy to be of service.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, we have a second.
Second.
Yes.
Motion. We're all liking this.
Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0. I already had it up. I was ready.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Marquise, you can just choose whoever you want to put the motion to second down, since it was all 9 of them that made the motion to second. Need a second reading, item 1 is proposed budget amendment, JPD insurance recovery in the amount of $27,668.10.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 2 is proposed budget amendment, Street Department American Rescue Plan Act in the amount of $10,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
And we can move on to item 4, consideration of an ordinance to amend the text of the procurement code.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Going on to new business, item 1 is a resolution to approve West Tennessee Healthcare incurrence of debt. Somebody here, okay. There we go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Jeff Blankenship, the Chief Financial Officer over West Tennessee Healthcare. Thank you all for hearing from us today. West Tennessee Healthcare is the Jackson-Madison County General Hospital District, a hospital district formed by private act in 1950. The debt that we carry as a business has been and continues to be issued as City of Jackson Hospital Revenue Bonds. Those bonds have to be approved by you all as our creating authority. And the resolution that's before you today would do a couple of things. One, it would approve a current transaction that we have for some debt. We are paying off about $10 million in a bond anticipation note in the next 60 days or so. And after that, we would like to issue tax-exempt bonds through a private placement with J.P. Morgan for up to $80 million. That amount is still moving depending on the projects that we associate with the debt. So the resolution before you would authorize us to do that transaction. We have about $320 million of debt, just to put that in perspective. The second part of this resolution would provide sort of a blanket approval for future transactions to allow us to issue our bonds as Jackson-Madison County General Hospital District bonds rather than City of Jackson Hospital Revenue Bonds. And the primary purpose there is to reduce any confusion about the obligation of those bonds. As hospital revenue bonds, it is the revenue of the hospital district that is pledged to satisfy those bonds. They are not general obligations of the city, but we feel that making this change would allow that to be more clear going forward. It would also eliminate approval at this level for those issuances in the future as a blanket approval for those.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Any discussion from council? Councilman Lawrence?
First of all, let me ask a question I think I know.
Sure.
In the history of the hospital, not one penny of tax money has been spent on that. Is that correct?
Correct.
On that, I think that's commendable on that. Now, it's been put up as collateral, but none of that has to be spent.
Correct.
In looking over this, I agree with what you're saying as far as the non-participation, but the revenue bonds. Technically, they're not the city's responsibility. But if it happened to default, the revenue was not high enough, then it would be indirectly the city's responsibility because the city assets would be used to cover it. Is that a correct statement?
I don't think so. My understanding from bond counsel is there is no situation where the assets of the city would be in play for the debt of the.
Okay, let me clarify that, because I misspoke. The assets of the city as far as relating to owning the hospital, not general assets. But the city county basically own the hospital, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. If it comes down to it, those assets are city assets right now, and they would be used to cover this debt in the likelihood or unlikelihood that the revenues did not cover. Is that correct?
That's not my understanding, but I can get that confirmed from bond counsel.
So okay, maybe we need to table this till we get that,
No.
Mr.
We
Chairman,
already have a
I
motion
wouldn't
second.
suggest tabling, because it takes it off and then you have to pull it back on. I listened to the Thursday night meeting, and you did answer that question, that the city would not be held liable. I do not have a problem waiting to make sure there's clarification.
So
And
we're
if
happy to provide that clarification from bond counsel, if that's helpful.
While you're here, though, what was you said that you didn't agree with what Councilman Lawrence said. What is your interpretation?
So my understanding from bond counsel is were we to default on our debt, there is no situation where those debtors could access the city. because
okay,
we're being
could they
responsible
access
for that
the
debt.
hospital for assets other than revenue?
Yes,
Okay, that's
Yeah.
my point.
Yeah.
Then the city ultimately, through the hospital which they own, would be liable or could be liable for that portion of debt. That's.
yes,
you're
but
shaking-
not beyond, I guess, the hospital assets.
Right, and that's the only problem I'm having. What oversight right now does a hospital have other than having the approval for bonds?
What oversight
yeah,
does
that's
the
a poor-
does the city
what-
have for the hospital?
What other oversight is the hospital under, so to speak?
So we have our own board, right?
Right.
We're subject to all the aspects of any corporation in terms of audit, fiscal
Right.
audit, those kinds of things. We're also reviewed by rating agencies and all kinds of regulatory bodies as it relates to healthcare.
Right.
Specifically, so.
But, okay, but there's, the only oversight right now formally is the approval of bonds by the city, and does the county have to do that also? And the county?
yeah.
So that's the only oversight for the whole complex now,
As far as debt, yes.
as far as anything? Is there an oversight committee that looks at anything other than?
No.
No, they have their
You
own
all
board.
appoint our board.
Yeah, the board.
And
The
our
board.
board is the governing
I'm
body
talking about
for the
other than
district.
the hospital board. Okay. If I was in your place, I'd be asking for this, and in my place, so I like to maintain a little bit of that oversight. It's minor, it's never been needed, but it's there.
Councilman Lawrence, may we ask our attorney?
I think Councilman
Roll
Frank
call.
McMean had next.
I was looking at the document here, and it
Okay,
says
apologize.
that the city shall not constitute a debt, or this shall not constitute a debt of the city within the meaning of the statutory limitation. So it says that the city, with this 80 million, we are not responsible for that.
Correct.
Correct. I think the councilman's, his point is that the city itself is an entity not responsible, but it's jointly owned by city and county, so it's our, once removed assets of the city and the county, is what Councilman Lawrence is talking about. Councilman Wallace?
Mr. Chairman, I was just gonna have our attorney Lewis Cobb, if he wanted to clarify.
Pop
that would
quiz.
make- Yes, but he was prepared, he was prepared. Yeah.
Let me give you what my understanding is if the city owns stock in Walmart, and Walmart went into debt and had to close, the city would lose the value of its stock. The city owns a half interest in an entity, a separate entity, and all we would lose is what the entity loses. If the hospital vanished, then the city would not own a hospital, but it would not be required to use its own taxing authority to pay that debt. The full faith and credit of the city is the ability to tax basically unlimited amount or to go into some sort of receivership, so what I think he's saying and what I agree with, nothing could happen where the city taxpayers would have to raise taxes to pay whatever might happen to them.
But would any assets of the city being have to be.
The only
used?
asset of the city is their interest in that entity, not any other entity.
All
We
right.
own a lot of things.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Councilman Lawrence?
2 points, okay, but if the hospital, God, we're talking about terrible things here, would happen to go under or whatever, then the city could be asked to, we would lose everything we have in the hospital, first of all, if, that's what I'm, if it was not, if it was needed.
Well, let's look at that. The hospital's not gonna go under.
Well-
The hospital might have more debt than it has assets, or more likely, might have more, debts coming due than they can pay. And what happens is, in business, is they go into a reorganization, in Chapter 11 or something. That's what would happen, and it would go through, in my opinion, the bankruptcy court for a public entity and come out, and the hospital, the building, and the facilities would still be there, but there would be new ownership.
I'm with you, so, but my point is, and I think y'all are agreeing with me, is that the assets that the city has through ownership of the hospital would be at, quote, risk, although it might be a minor.
All right, for example, this confused me in law school. If I own an interest in a partnership that owns real estate, I own no real estate. All I own is an interest in the partnership which owns real estate. If the partnership goes broke, someone else will own the real estate, but it's still there.
We're not gonna lose the buildings because we don't own the buildings.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to call the question.
All right, a motion to call the question. There a second?
Yes.
All right, a motion to call the question, a second. All the council members, please vote.
Motion passed. Oh, I'm still deliberating.
Okay,
Me too.
All right, well, we're voting now, so you can deliberate a little longer, but you're, all right. Call it, Marquisha, please.
Motion passed 6-1 and 1 abstain.
Okay. All right, so questions are called. We have a motion and a second on the table. Council, please vote.
Seven and two. Yeah, 7-2.
All right.
May I be excused?
Yes. Well, maybe.
thank you.
I'm just right over there, let me know.
Item 2 under new business, consideration of the purchase of a bus wash system for Jackson Transit Authority.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
Bids were received for a portable bus washer. 2 bids were received. It's a recommendation of GHEA and Purchasing Department toward this bid to Bidimet International. This bid comes in at a cost of $34,900. Also have Travis here with GHEA if there's any questions.
All right, any questions from council?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question while they're here, Mayor, if you don't mind. The,
Now.
JTA, any, Mr. Zach, any, Mr., what's your last name?
Polk.
Mr. Polk, I'm sorry. Mr. Polk, any purchases JTA makes over 5,000 has to be approved by the council?
That's correct.
Okay.
You're on that board.
And does that restrict you in any kind of, whether it restricts you to anything under $5,000, but is that a hardship?
Yes, sir. Because it depends on how long it takes to get on the agenda of the council. So if it's something that we're trying to purchase next month, then the council meeting is the first, then we don't get it by the deadline, then we got to wait maybe 2 months.
And prices might go up?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
I would say that we have the same process with our departments, and they get prices locked in and get it on the council agenda within plenty of time.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
All right, item 3 is consideration of a housing commission resolution.
Morning, Mayor and Council. This is a resolution to create a housing commission that will have a dedicated focus on developing an action plan for affordable and attainable housing, making sure all the workforce and industrial growth that we've had, we can sustain and keep families in our community. So I'll entertain any questions. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion from council?
I think this is an important issue that we need. We don't know exactly what it's gonna be, but we've got to start working on it. I would like to make an amendment to Section 3 that the mayor or city commission shall nominate members of the commission with the city council election. I'd like to make that in form of motion.
I'm sorry, I didn't, can you clarify?
It gives the city council the right to nominate people. I didn't set a number because that's all up in the air. Don't even know how many's on the committee. But if you have someone you'd like to nominate, you can nominate along with the mayor, and then the city council will elect those people.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
would we have a similar opportunity as it's currently presented to make recommendations directly to you?
Yes. So we have a motion on the table to make an amendment. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question, or if you
Are
want
you
to
asking a question on the amendment?
I wanted to ask her about the amendment, if I may.
Okay.
Is that proper?
Yes.
Ms. Kirk, I feel so confident in you, and I don't want to start off, but I am going to brag on you because of your qualifications, everything that you've done, and also your passion for this subject. Once you get going with this, would you come back to city council and say, I would like to have 3 members on this? Is
So-
that since you're our leader in this, I'd like to just understand your thoughts.
So on Thursday, which I believe you had to be out for agenda review, I
I
invited
listened to it.
the council to provide recommendations, and I believe the mayor has always done that. This resolution is based on a template resolution language because I believe it's based on the charter's authority that is granted to the mayor. It's not this is not unique to this commission, I guess is what I'm getting at, because we follow the process that the charter outlines and how we set up our boards and commissions.
Yes, so I think what your question is, Councilmember, that prior to the establishment of the commission, of the number of commission members, we will come back to this council with a recommendation of the structure of the commission and also the recommendations for the commission members. So it'll be structure and then a commission member. So, and again, with every commission, with every committee, council's welcome to submit those to my office.
We'll be having an interest meeting for this one in particular, just because we know it is such a issue that everybody's talking about right now, right? Like I was on the radio a few weeks ago about it. We had a wonderful showing from realtors at a planning commission meeting concerned about this. So I'll be having an interest meeting, and all of y'all will receive an invite to that via email. So definitely be involved.
All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second on the amendment? Is there a second on the amendment? Motion to amend dies for lack of a second. Move back to the original motion in a second. Any further
Second.
discussion? Council, please vote.
I'm abstaining.
Motion passed 8-1 abstain.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4 is budget amendments less than 10,000. Item 5, consideration of invoices over 10,000.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
No other business coming before the council. Meeting is adjourned.